All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I'm glad all of you guys are here today. I hope this Shabbat is treating you well. It's warming up out there, as you you guys already know. But let me open in prayer. Father, Yahuwah, great and mighty you are. There is none like you. Father, we thank you for your provision. We thank you for your love and your mercy. And Father, we thank you for your direction for our lives, and it is so appreciated. And Father, that's why we come here. We want to understand more of it. We want to incorporate more of it into our lives, to be empowered by your Spirit, so that we can overcome all things that come before us. Again, we thank you again for your words. Father, be with us today. Amen. So, and I'd like to thank those online, family being part of us. It's always great. LivingMessiah.com is the website. You'll find the donate button there. And if your heart so moves, we do appreciate those who do give. Thank you so much. So, and a thumbs up's always nice to have as well. So, okay, as far as with comments and questions, today I'm going to try to I might go speedily as possible. So, we'll kind of maybe have the mics in the beginning for a little bit and then kind of hold them and then bring it back. We'll see how it goes, okay? But a note on the mic, if you do have the mic, make sure you talk to it straight ahead, okay? Ward has designed the microphones or how they are sensitive to sound. What it does online, it also takes away, by doing so, it takes away echoes and things like that. So talk into it straight. I'll keep directing you till we're all trained perfectly, straight to the mouth, okay? Close to the mouth as well. So, that being said, with your questions and comments, when we do get to them, try to make them brief, be on the point of what we're talking about, so the purpose is that we all learn together here. So, first of all, I'll open it up. Last week I asked, your homework, the homework was Exodus 34. Did anyone go ahead and read a little bit? And if so, is there anything you'd like to share that stood out? If not, later on, we'll revisit that. So, anything, Dan? I see you thinking. Well, got to talk into the mic.
Oh. Obviously, the comparison of the face is glowing. I already did it, right? Point the mic at your face.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. Obviously, the comparison of Moses' face glowing when he was in the presence of Yah.
Yes.
And Stephen's face glowing and him looking up and seeing the Son of God. So that was definitely a parallel. Maybe that Moses was going in and getting commandments and Stephen was defending. The accusation of him was that he was getting rid of the traditions and commandments, and parallel is, yes. Yeah, I think it's kind of, maybe, I'll never get this right. Maybe it was Yah just saying, hey, my Torah is still in full effect. So.
Yes. No, I think that's wonderful. Thank you, Dan, for doing your homework. Out of the whole class, the only one that did his homework. Thank you so much. And what he was talking about is actually really what we're going to be discussing as well. So later on, you'll have hopefully, if we get to that point, you'll have a chance as well. But a real quick overview, so we understand kind of where we're at. There was men from a particular synagogue. Okay, they seem to have differences with Stephen's message or with Stephen himself. Really doesn't matter in that sense. But I would argue, since who they were talking to, it ultimately comes down to, let's put it in modern lingo, the differences were theological or doctrinal. Okay, I know the Old Testament or the New Testament uses the traditions or the custom of the elders, but ultimately it still comes down to that idea. There was a difference between them, and the text says itself that they could not resist the wisdom and the spirit by which he spoke, that being Stephen. So Stephen is now then brought before a council, which would be, I think it's the Sanhedrin here, to answer for some false accusations that been going around, or they promoted others to do so. Okay, so that gives us a somewhat of a context of where we're at, let alone the whole context of, remember, we're in Acts as well. And I know I'm saying that because that's one thing that I'm learning from myself is looking at the things that are going on. Everything has to be in the context of itself, and ultimately has to be the context of all of Scripture. Okay, so that brings us to this point then. Okay, and all who sat in the council, looking steadily at him, that being Stephen, saw his face was like the face of a heavenly messenger. I know last week I talked a little bit about this, but I kind of want to go in more deep and really share maybe more, at least for me, the importance of my perspective, and then you can decide for yourself on that as well. So this face like a heavenly messenger. First, how does Stephen know, how do they know what a face of a heavenly messenger is? Okay, so that brings that kind of strange. So that might be then, what is the author of Acts trying to allude to here, if anything? Okay, he is saying something here, I believe. And if that is the case, then it must be understood in the context of things that are written before. It just can't be something new. Okay, and that's what I think is important for us to do. First thing to notice here, I'm not saying that his face was shining, because the text doesn't say that right here. But it seems to be alluding to something. And ultimately, like Dan was pointing out, it does allude to other things about a shining face and a glow and that type of idea. It's just, okay, is that where we need to go or not? Actually, that's where I went, and I think it proved to be profitable, and I'll share that here. So this statement about Stephen's face being the face of a heavenly messenger, it's right after this, Stephen begins to respond to the high priest that we'll see begin in chapter 7. So you can ultimately you see 6 and 7 run together. Actually, all the texts run together. You can't just pick out a chapter and something completely changed. Okay, so they are related. So right after this, these accusations that were brought before Stephen answers for them, and that's going to be in chapter 7, where it's going to be interesting how he answers and what he talks about, okay? So back to this idea of face of a messenger. It brings to my mind the idea of face, first off, because it's not saying anything about shining here, but the idea of a face is very, very important. Then ultimately, a shining face, the face of heaven, of the heavens. That idea is here, the face of Elohim. Because anytime you're talking about the heavens, there's only one who rules the heavens. So ultimately, it's pointing about the Elohim. Like that, in one gospel it says the kingdom of heaven, the other it says the kingdom of Elohim. Well, they're talking about one and the same place, and that's his kingdom. So I would suggest when it's talking about this heavenly thing, it's talking about him. Okay, so then that would break down to the face of Elohim in sense. So what does that mean? Or what would that mean, So let's explore this and to see if this is connected or not. Again, that's going to be your opinion here. So ultimately, in this, the first thing that came to my mind when I was doing my research is this face-to-face with Elohim, because you're talking about face, and that brings us to Moses. A very, very important figure. I think so important that I think in some ways maybe modern modern Christian institutes don't look at Moses as such a powerful figure or doesn't give him the credit to be such a powerful figure that he should be. alongside with Messiah Yeshua. Okay? So, here are some examples as we make our way back to Moses. Okay? This is interesting here in the Aaronic Blessing. 25 and 26, Yahuwah make his face to shine upon you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Thus they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I shall bless them. So this is the priestly blessing. And this came after Moses was on the mountain, okay? So to me it is connected, but ultimately right here, this priestly blessing that Aaron was to do over the people, ultimately it resonates back to the experience that Moses had, to have the Almighty's face shine upon them. Okay? And remember, it's a stiff-necked people. That's the context at that time. And I don't think it has changed. So ultimately, to me, I would put into this idea here that this blessing, ultimately, that his face shine upon you, that you turn your neck, your stiff neck, to his face. Okay? So that brings us also to look at this in Ecclesiastics. And I think Ecclesiastic breaks down to the idea of it meaning the converter, to convert one, or something in that sense. But read, this is interesting. Who is like a wise man who knows the meaning of a matter? A man's wisdom makes his face shine, and the hardness of his face change. I say, guard the sovereign's command because of the oath before Elohim. So, just in simple form, wisdom changes the face. Now, if you start thinking about wisdom, the beginning of wisdom, boy, you begin to see how things are so connected, like this huge network that all points back to him. I'll take a drink while you make a comment.
In the Testament of Shimon, it talks about how when he talks about Yosef, he said his face would shine, or you could see the righteousness on his face because there was no wickedness in him.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. So with this, after this, then ultimately I'm getting back to Moses' face, and that's in Exodus 34. So, and it came to be when Moses came down from Mount Sinai, while the 2 tablets of the witness were in Moses' hand, when he came down from the mountain, and Moses did not know that his skin of his face shone, since he had spoken with him, that him being the Almighty Yahuwah. So, this to me is the beginning of understanding the face of Elohim, in my opinion. It's this example. So to me, from this example, if we really understand it to as far as we can, then this idea of shining face, messenger, all that is, would it be predicated on that? All that is this, what happens here about Moses, because it's not mentioned anywhere else after this, except for Paul mentions it. But you don't have this idea. But all through this text, you begin to hear about shining, being bright, light, and all these concepts. But nothing about Moses' face except for right here, as far as I can tell. So that means that all those ideas all come back to Moses. And talking about light, creation, what was the first thing that came into existence? Light. And that wouldn't first shining, wouldn't it not? Okay? So, the pattern of Moses and where this event took place or occurred in Israel's history then is important. So it's not just that he went up the mountain and his face glowed and he came down. Okay? Which I'm saying that's what happened. But what more was going on that we can understand that whole incident? because they didn't get at that mountain. Moses' face didn't shine till after they came out of Egypt, right? And as soon as you're talking about Egypt and the blood of the Lamb, all of a sudden, whoa, Messiah, Yeshua, and Moses, the whole idea of shining and everything should start coming together. At least it did for me. And that's, to me, what makes understanding at Mount Sinai, to the best of our ability, ultimately, it's only going to help us understand Yahuwah and all what he has done. And that affects us right now. So, and it came to be, I'll just jump down to 30, and Aaron and all the children of Israel looked at Moses and saw that his skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come near him. But Moses called out to them, and Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation, the called out assembly, returned to him, and Moses spoke with them. And afterward, all the children of Israel came near, and he commanded them all that Yahuwah had spoken with them on the mountain. And when Moses ended speaking with them, he put a veil or a scarf on his face. But whenever Moses went in before Yahuwah to speak with him, he would remove that veil until he came out. And when he came out, he spoke to the children of Israel what he had been commanded. And the children of Israel would see the face of Moses, that his skin of Moses' face shone. And Moses would put the veil on his face again until he went in to speak with him. Okay, this is the context. But where does this lie in the greater context at Mount Sinai? First of all, it's interesting, they would see Moses' face. Ultimately, that comes down to, because Moses would share the commandments, what he just got, so they would see Moses' face. There's an association with the commandments right off the bat. But I don't think he came out and veiled his face while he was talking to them. I think he never veiled it going to the Most High. I would submit to you, after speaking to the Most High, he would come out with that, because it says that they saw his face. And Moses would speak, and then he would veil his face until he went back in again. So he didn't come, to me in some sense, he didn't come out of speaking with the Almighty, and before he went outside, he covered his face. I don't see that particularly. Maybe that's the way it's understood. Maybe I'm overlooking something. But it sounds like several times here, they saw his face. So it wasn't hidden the whole time. But he did eventually hide it, and then went in, this unveiling here. It's an interesting pattern that's there. But this is in direct response to the golden calf event. This is in direct response to the broken covenant. Because remember, they came out of Egypt, right? By the blood of the Lamb, came to the mountain, washed themselves, getting ready. Then it was, where is this Moses? Because Moses went up to receive the commandments to come down, but then it was also all that Yahuwah says we will do, so Moses goes up to receive even more, right? And Moses comes down, and they broke the covenant. Within 40 days, they annihilated the covenant that they just entered into. Moses comes down. There's the whole symbol of the broken covenant right there. Those stones were broke. The covenant was broke. This, again, was after they said all that he says we will do. Then Moses ascends to receive, and this is after Moses, that was the first set. He comes down. The commandments are broken. A covenant is broken. And keep in mind, Acts, we're talking about, this is right after Shavuot, the celebration, the speaking of tongues, the celebration of the mountain where the commandments were given. We're not too far from that here. But back here, when Moses came down the first time, it brought death. 3,000 people died that day because of the breaking of the covenant. Did you have a comment, Polly?
I have a thought about Moses' shining face. So if we understand the heavens to a certain degree, we understand that the light that we see shining is a reflection of another light. It's just reflecting the light. They're not a light of themselves. So perhaps Moses' face itself was not shining, but he was reflecting the light, or the presence of the Almighty that he was in was reflecting. He was a reflection of that light. Mm-hmm. So just thinking about that, the same way the Word of God, it's not, if someone sees the light of Messiah in us, it's not us. We're just reflecting his light that we understand it's being reflected off of us, and that's what other people see. The Messiah, or the Most High, we reflect his light.
I would agree 100%, and I do see that concept is presented here and should be continued going on. Yes, 100%. Thank you, Polly. So this breaking of the covenant, he comes down, 3,000 die. Moses breaks the first sets. So what does Moses do? What does Moses decide to do, especially after what Elohim says that he's going to do? He says, you know what? They broke my covenant. I'm going to wipe them out. And out of you, Moses, out of you, I will make my promises come true. I will fulfill my covenant that I've spoken to your forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Out of you, Moses. Out of you, Moses alone, I will do it. These stiff-necked people, forget them. Ultimately, it's interesting, in some ways, Moses lays his life on the line for these stiff-necked people who broke this covenant. He was only gone for 40 days, guys, right? So he pleads then, right before the shining face, he pleads with Elohim, because Elohim says, okay, I'm not even going to go with you. I'll just send a messenger with you guys, because if I go along with you, I'm probably going to wipe you out, right? But Moses, he pleads, not just a messenger of Elohim, please, not just that, continue that you go with us. You go before us. Because it's you who brought us out, not me. It's you who brought us out by your great name. That's why he's doing it. So ultimately what happens is a renewed covenant is set in place. Now that should start sounding real familiar to us. One who stands in the place and sets in a renewed covenant for the stiff-necked people. But one thing you got to point out, yes, this renewal of this covenant, there is no changes to the agreement that was set down. None. That's a pattern. That pattern's no different today. If we go advance and we see Yeshua breaking in a new covenant, does he change the requirements? No, not if we go by a pattern that's given to us. Same agreements for the same things. I think that's very important. There might have been more things added that Elohim added in his agreement for them, but that's ultimately just to guide them a little bit more in, because we are a stiff-necked people. Right? So the first conditions is not done away with, just renewed through the acts of Moses then, who now is not just that Redeemer who brought them out of Egypt, but he's now a mediator between the people and Elohim. And my guess, Moses didn't elect himself to do this. He's saying just, don't do that like anything. It reminds me of, at least when I was, at least with the Assemblies of God, and I think it was with anyone, you say, you point out something should be done. Someone, well, then that's your ministry. There you go. So Moses, in some sense, that's what happened here. I didn't think he was looking to be in this position. It was hard to get him from the burning bush to go back to Egypt in some sense. But his humility and who he was, he did so. So he becomes a mediator of a renewed covenant with the same agreements that always was. Okay? In this point, before Moses' face kind of shows, Elohim shows his glory to Moses. But only the backside, not his face. That's interesting. He spoke with him face to face, but he only saw the glory of the backside of the Most High while he was placed in the cleft of a rock. New tablets, now with the finger of Elohim, that Moses had to carve out himself this time. It seems like the first set Elohim gave, this time, what do we got going on here? Okay, this time with this refreshed, renewed covenant, you got to hew them out, and you got to come and bring them before me. And then he will put them on those tablets. So if we start comparing this real quickly here, the intent, you'll see, always was to have it written where? That's why he brought the stone tablets down, so they would have them written on their hearts, right? So now we have to do even more labor. We have to hew out our stones, take it to the Most High, which is our heart, because his heart came down first, right? Now we got to take our heart up, and now he writes on those stones, and hopefully it doesn't stay on stones. It actually gets written here, because that's always been the intent. This is what happened here at Mount Sinai. Look at the picture of what Messiah proclaims as well. In the prophets, in Yahuwah himself, I will write it on the tablets of your heart. That's how it happens. You just don't sit around thinking it's just going to happen. You got to go get your stone heart and take it up to him, and he will engrave it anew. Because the thing is, if it's graven here, you can break the commandments all you want, but if you have it here, all you can do is destroy me, right? All you can do is put me to death. But we know one who can bring me back. So you see even that deep concept there. If it's on your heart, that is more powerful, because they can take down, anyone can throw away all the Bibles in the world and you not have one. But if we have it here, that's powerful. So this is all at Mount Sinai. This is what I'm seeing the pattern. So these tablets are now with the finger of Elohim, which ultimately is glory. He showed his glory. This comes into play with, in the past I mentioned this word glory is all the weight of who Elohim is. Glory, our English word, if you think of that English word glory, think that it means weight, because in the Hebrew it means everything a warrior's weighted down with, everything who makes up who he is. Whoa, so when you're talking about the glory of Elohim, this is big, this is heavy, real heavy stuff. Because he is the essence of who he is, the weight of all who he is. So what happens then? Moses needs to make these tablets this time and have Elohim write on them. I'll let you go.
I was thinking this morning because we were watching a study on kindness, and I was always asking what does it really mean to put on the armor? And I always thought, oh, like the Christian ways, helmet of salvation, breastplate of righteousness. But as we were watching the study today, I realized that the armor is not on the outside; it's on the inside, so that way we're guarding against ourselves, against things like anger and malice and lewdness and other things like that. And
Yes.
as we put on the armor, we have to remember we're guarding from that stuff, and that's what makes the armor.
Very much, very much. Thank you, brother. So something else came to my mind. Written in stone, right? The second time around with the finger of Elohim. I'm just going to present this. Is that the letter of the law? Go ahead, Mark.
So you're talking about glory. So the scriptures tell us that Yeshua is the glory of Elohim. So he is, as you said, he's everything, all that weight, all that armor, all of who he is. But it also says in Isaiah 44:23, it says, in Israel, he shows forth his glory.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you begin to already see the connection between these terms and these ideas. They're very, very important. Say what I've learned, in the past, I would read my Bible and I was like, I'm not understanding that. I don't understand that. But you know what? I understand more now because I take the time to understand these things that are being said. And I think the one I remember all of a sudden this video of Brad Scott comes to my mind, and he says, how did he say? He says, if we're going to be believers in Messiah, right? And we say this Bible is the most important thing, and it is truth, and we don't spend any time in it, so it is. But this idea, think about, this is something to consider. Written in stone, maybe we could associate that with the letter of the law. Because even though it was written in stone, it is still his glory written in the stone. So there's glory there. But written on the heart, would that be the spirit of the law? They're associated. The spirit of the law, then, is obedience to the law. The letter of the law, that would equate to not doing it. It's just stone tablets. His glory still, but just stone tablets. And ultimately, the letter of the law to me would be not doing the law. And if you're not doing the law, where does that lead you to? Leads you to death. And we saw that at Mount Sinai with those who neglected the commandment, neglected those things. Sounds a lot like right before you, I give you life and death. And it's all coming from the same thing. Valerie.
So as we're talking about how the Torah was written on stone, and it's interesting how the Torah was written in stone in the physical, but in the spiritual, in Ezekiel 36:26, it says, and I shall give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you, and I will take the heart of stone out of your flesh, and I'll give you a heart of flesh. And when our hearts are hard and made of stone, we don't walk out the commandments because we're too prideful. But when we allow the Spirit to turn our heart to flesh, then he writes the law in our heart and we walk it out.
Excellent. Perfect. And one is death and one is life. The letter is death. It's just written. When it's written on the heart, obedience is life. Mount Sinai is a picture. The Levites chose, remember, after the golden calf, they chose what? we're going to stand next to Yahuwah. That's where we stand. And they got allotted, and they were set apart to be part of the priest stuff and all that. So they were elected to do that. So what they did is they changed, if we look at as an example, they changed from their disobedience, because there was plenty of them dancing around that calf as well. Aaron had his hand in it. But they changed from disobedient to all that Yah is. We stand with that. Could it be the whole Passover story? The blood of the Lamb is all summed up in Moses' face? A clear picture of Messiah to come. A glory of all who Elohim is right here at Mount Sinai. One like Moses, remember? One like Moses will come. And guess what? You better listen to his voice. And you need to obey his voice. So if you believe that one like Moses is to come is the Messiah Yeshua, the agreement hasn't changed. Messiah may have refreshed the commandments under the same conditions. He has not done away with anything. Well, that's heavy. And if you look hard enough, there's a lot of love and mercy in that. I think we overlook that sometimes. So one like Moses, his voice you need to obey. This is the one Moses spoke of. The one Moses was speaking of. Moses' face, like Paulie was pointing him out, which I see that whole idea. That glory of the Father with him, and he's bringing it forth. But Yeshua is the very face of Elohim I would present to you. I think that's even more weightier. Harry Beth, would you like to read for us? And this is what I'm saying now with this idea. Messiah, the face of Elohim. If you have seen him, then you have seen the face of the Father. If you would like to read for me, honey bun, John 14, 1 through 18. Listen to this in our context, what we're talking about.
Okay, let not your heart be troubled. Believe in Elohim. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many staying places, and if not, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I shall come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, you might be too. And where I go, you know, and the way you know. Thomas said to him, Master, we do not know where you are going, and how are we able to know the way? Yeshua said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you had known me, you would have known my Father too. From now on, you know him and have seen.
Have seen him.
Philip said to him, Master, show us the Father, and it is enough for us. Yeshua said to him, Have I been with you so long, and you have not known me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father. And how do you say, Show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I speak to you, I do not speak from myself, but the Father who stays in me does his works. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father in me. Otherwise, believe me because of the works themselves. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he shall do also, and greater works than these he shall do, because I go to my Father. And whatever you ask in my name, that I shall do, in order that the Father might be esteemed in the Son. If you ask whatever in my name, I shall do it. If you love me, you shall guard my commands. And I shall ask the Father, and he shall give you another helper to stay with you forever, the Spirit of the truth, whom the world is unable to receive because it does not see him or know him. But you know him, for he stays with you and shall be in you. I shall not leave you orphans. I am coming to you.
Thank you. So if you take everything that Messiah was saying and go back and put it in the context of who Moses was with the children of Israel, to me, it's a very clear pattern of the one and same thing. Oh, you're going to say, well, there's no shining face there, Ralphie. No, I think Messiah was quite clear. If you're looking at me, you're looking at the face of the Father. And did you notice it talked about the Spirit? I'll send you one that will go before you and guide you. Mount Sinai. And then we just had the Messiah has risen. He went up and Acts begins and the speaking in tongues, Shavuot, Mount Sinai episode all happening. And then we have Stephen. He's bringing forth a message. And his face was like the face of a messenger. That means whatever, his face doesn't need to be shining, but him coming. The author wants you to know whatever Stephen's about to say, he's bringing forth the same message from the Father. A message from the heavens that always has been there. This is awesome. So Yah reveals his glory to Moses. And this, again, was blot me out of your book, out of your presence, if you're not going to go with us. So Moses' face to me then is grace, mercy, compassion. Glory is the picture contained in the shining face of Moses. All the essence of who Elohim is. The very reflection of the Father. The weight of the Father, who he is, and what he is doing, and what he is going to do. We cannot leave that out of the equation because he's not a stagnant God. He is, he was, he is, and will be. And this is all amongst his people to become what? That he become their Elohim and they become his people. Mount Sinai. What did Yeshua say? In the beginning, oh, my Father has many rooms, many dwelling, many places for you to dwell. If you're looking at my face, you see the face of the Father, and if you've seen what I've been doing, I haven't changed the agreements of anything, and I eventually will lay my life down like Moses couldn't, but I laid my life down to bring you back to all that. So Yahuwah's grace and compassion is here on Mount Sinai, so big that the people didn't see it. And when we read our text and we see, oh, they didn't see the weight of what Moses was doing. And it's like, oh yeah, we got it all together now, but we don't understand the weight of our Messiah and what he's done either. Because we've all come out of institution who have done away with that. All the commandments, you've done away with a lot of the glory of who he is. So we have obviously a long way to go, all of us, but we have hope. So this is that compassion at Mount Sinai with Moses. Now a mediator too, as well as being that deliverer. Wow, that sounds a lot like who Yeshua is. Remember the Mount of Transfiguration? I think that fits into the picture. Go back and read about that. Elijah, Moses there, and Yeshua, huge. Now, a greater glory. There, Yeshua's face is God's glory, who he is. To me, how you understand Moses' face in Exodus 34, and there's many things we could spend a month going through that. But there's so much more. Is to me, when you it helped me understand Paul's allusion to the veil of Moses in 2 Corinthians. If you look real quick, just overall, Paul's ministry there, what he's talking about, letters, and he relates that. He talks about Moses' face. But Paul's ministry, he does say it's divisive in the sense that everywhere Paul goes, around him, two camps. Those who are being saved and those who are perishing. Those who are willing to obey, those who just want the letter of the law and hang their commandments on their, and put them out front and say, wow, that's a beautiful, yes it is, but if you don't do them, his glory isn't shared anywhere, right? So Paul makes a contrast between the ministry of the old covenant and the new. So if he's talking about that, he's talking about that disobedience of the golden calf versus Moses, a mediator, the new one, renewed, that Elohim decided to renew. That's one way to look at that. So I would submit to the old one, the old covenant then, if you want to use those terms, is when they danced around the golden calf. And the renewed one then is with Moses, with a mediator, with the new tablets of stone, with the promises of the Father of one to come like Moses, the law that was always intended to be written on the hearts of his people. So I don't see any difference or I see, yes, like the text says, a greater glory, a greater one has come, and this is Yeshua. And this is the last chance for you guys, for anybody. He could not have done it any more than what he has. So there's this idea of lifeless letters, of tablets, as to me, what is opposed to those which are obeyed from the heart by the power of the Spirit. I will write them on your heart. I will write them on your heart. How does that happen? Let me continue and then we can close and we can talk about more of this. And he cut the two tablets of stone like the first one, and Moses rose up early in the morning and went up Mount Sinai, and Yahuwah had commanded him, and took the two tablets of stone in his hand. And Yahuwah came down in the cloud and stood with them there and proclaimed the name of Yahuwah. Exactly what Yeshua did. And Yahuwah passed before him and proclaimed, Yahuwah, Yahuwah. This is why I believe the face of Elohim is, or Moses' face is important right here. Yahuwah, Yahuwah, and El, a God, compassionate and showing favor, patient and great kindness and truth, watching over kindness for thousands, forgiving crookedness and transgressions and sin, but by no means leaving unpunished, visiting the crookedness on the fathers upon the children and the children's children to the third and fourth generation. Who came down from the heavens? What became flesh? The very words of Elohim came down, the very carved words. And Moses hurried and lowered himself to the earth and did obeisance and said, if now I have found favor in your eyes, O Yahuwah, I pray, let Yahuwah go in our midst, even though we are a stiff-necked people, and forgive our crookedness and our sin, and take us as your inheritance, as your people. And he said, see, I am making a covenant before all your people. I am going to do wonders, marvels, such as you have never been done on all the earth, nor in any nation, and all the people among whom you are shall see the work of Yahuwah, for I am doing it with you is awesome. Oh, guard what I command you today. To me, that's like that big period on everything he just said, right? So the promise of the Father, that is how the book of Acts opens, because of Elohim's love, compassion, mercy, his name, the glory, the weight of all who he is to me the face, is that face of Moses. He shines, his light, the law, we obey. He shines his light, the law, and when we obey, we shine, just like Polly said. So, in closing, you know what? I want to come back to, go ahead, Ward. I'm sorry, over.
I'm going to put a quick, a little variation on what's said about, reflecting Yahweh's light. So, in the scripture it says that Yahweh placed the moon to light the night with its own light. The moon gives off its own light. But the moon is absorbing the energy in its environment that comes from the sun. So the ultimate source of that energy is the sun, but the moon absorbs it and then re-emits it in its own spectrum that serves a specific purpose that the moon is meant to do. In the same way, the stars are emitting light, but every star is unique in the colors, in the patterns by which it emits the light. And that's still Yahweh's light.
Yeah.
It's his energy. And we being his creation, when Moses was in the presence of Yahweh, he was able to absorb Yahweh's light like a battery. He was charged up like a battery. And then when he was away from Yahweh, he was re-emitting that light. And my guess is in a unique way. A different person there that had been in that situation would have been re-emitting that, but it would have been looked slightly different because we're all unique and we all have separate things we can do in separate purposes, just like the stars are unique, just like the moon has its own unique purpose. So I think he designed us this in the same pattern that he did other things in creation to be able to absorb his light, his energy when we are in his will, and to re-emit it. Now, once Moses was away from that, yes, he re-emitted that light for a while, but he didn't go back into his presence, so that light faded away.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, what it's telling us is when we have our resurrected bodies and we're continually in his presence, we will be continually re-emitting that light, showing we are one with him and we are in his presence and carrying out his will.
Thank you, Lord. There's a depth to our God, to who we go after. So what I have to do, we have to close, but let me close with this because I want to bring it finally again here. So Yeshua is not done away with anything. He has, like Moses, but a greater glory has been offered, okay? A renewal of what always was for him to dwell in our midst. That would be the kingdom of Elohim, the kingdom of heaven, right? It's at hand. It's still at hand for you to choose. The law came through Moses. Grace and truth are revealed in the law through Yeshua, the face of God, the face of Elohim. See, I'm making a new covenant here, he says Moses, and it's going to be wondrous and marvels. Oh, check this out. Listen to this. This is the gate of Yahuwah, the righteous enter through it. I thank you, for you have answered me and have become my deliverance, the language. The stone which the builders reject has become the chief cornerstone. And what is this from Yahuwah? It is marvelous. Just like what he said, I'm going to do there is nothing more marvelous than how he had his word, his son, come down, lay down his life, have it come back up again for us to return to Elohim. So next week, if you can, I have to close, I'm sorry. Or yeah, go ahead. We're late, we're over, I know. Women, we'll get one more comment and then we'll close.
Just real quick. So based off of what Polly was saying about how we reflect Yah's light and how Ward was sort of saying the same thing, it reminded me of Matthew 5, 14 to 16. You are light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. Let your light so shine before men so that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven.
Excellent. I would ask you to go back and read Psalms 18 and read this fullness of what it starts talking about after this marvelous thing that he has done for us, our God. Thank you, sister. Thank you. This is the day Yahuwah has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. I pray, O Yahuwah, please save us. Save, I pray. O Yahuwah, please send prosperity. This is our prayer. We're closing prayer here. Blessed is he who is coming in the name of Yahuwah. Blessed is your king that's returning, Father Yahuwah. We shall bless you from the house of Yahuwah. Yahuwah is an El. He gave us light. Bind the festival offering with cords to the horns of the altar. You are my God. You are my El. I praise you. You are my Elohim. I exalt you. Give thanks to Yahuwah, for he is good, and his kindness is everlasting. Father, Yahuwah, great and mighty you are. We thank you, and just empower us, continue to empower us with your spirit. You are all we have that is valuable. Thank you, Father. Amen. Shalom, everyone. Those online, thanks for joining us. I know it went over, but next week we're going to start Stephen's reply, and then everything we just went over and more is going to be right here. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone.